Okay, yes, Massive and crew, we're back again with another video. This time I'm just replying to one of my subscribers. They were asking how to make things sound big and nasty. Well, I'm going to show you how I kind of generally process stuff. I don't know about big and nasty, but I'm definitely going to show you how to improve something from just sort of your general scratch to something that sounds a little bit more heavier in the mix. And it's really quite simple, the way you can go about processing stuff. You don't have to always go full on with lots of effects and etc., but it does help if you experiment with certain different types of compressors and certain different types of sounds. I mean, back in the day, I used to use a lot of compressors and stuff, and I remember going into Lucky Spin Studio, that they used to use a studio, Monroe Studios next door on Holloway Road. And basically they had all different types of compressors there, and I'm sure that's where a lot of DJ Crystal mixed down a lot of his stuff, and they had pretty much loads of kit, all the latest stuff. So going to show you a few bits and pieces bouncing off of that, and also hopefully clear up on how to make your breaks sound a lot fatter. So here we go. So for example, here is an Amon sample. As you can see, it's straight from Amon Brothers. Now to save time, I've obviously chopped this up. Now I do have other videos on how to slice, so if anybody wants to learn to do that, feel free. Now this is from an MP3, it's not actually from a WAV file. I just got this to give you an idea on the tutorial, but it's going to make a difference, right? So I programmed this drum loop here. And as you can hear, sounding pretty good. Not going to diss the Amon Brothers stuff because it sounds pretty good. But if I wanted to make this sound more like a junglist kind of Amon, I'm going to pile on a few bits and pieces. So we're going to start with, so for example, I just wanted to give you an insight, show you a compressor. This is one of the UAD plugins. Now this is it's called Shadow Hills compressor. And if I switch that on, you're going to hear the difference. So you hear the volume increase, and I think the most important thing that makes a difference to the characteristics of this sound is what it kind of does to the hi-hat. So you got to make sure you got a fair bit of hat in there to get this sort of effect. Because what you find the compressor does is it sort of pulls it up and down depending on your release time. Now this is quite a deep compressor. I don't mess with too much of the settings. Everything's pretty much box standard. Now to get this sort of plug-in, you have to have a UAD card. I've got a UAD sound card that I use, and this is why I like UAD. Now failing that, if you just want to use box standard built-in, Renoise comes with some great compressors that are built in, and also some great effects which I'm going to show you today. Yeah, so for example, if I switch on the compressor, it's got that slamming sound now, and that's not just I had to flick through a few settings, and believe it or not, this is actually a voice setting, but it doesn't matter. Just because it says voice, it doesn't mean that you have to use a voice only on that preset. Yeah, you can use whatever you want. It's your song, whatever you want to sound good. So just remember that. If it sounds slamming to you and it's working, then use it. It doesn't matter whether it's used for a foot or a flipping toe or a flipping hand. You know what I mean? Jingle bells, jingle all the way. As long as it's flipping sounding good, you use it for you make the rules, it's your music, yeah? So as you see, I've used that voice extreme. There's some other settings. But let's go for the voice extreme. So now that sounds pretty slamming. Now another thing you could do, if you wanted to keep hold of that, as for, to use for future use, you could just literally grab that and then render to sample. By doing that, you'd create another sample, and it will always have the effect on it, which means you could use it over and over again in different songs. And you can also use it in this song, delete the compressors, and you can save on what you call DSP, which is computer power, yeah. And then that way you can load more and more, save that power for something else in your mix, right? So from here I would go back into here again, and I would cut that up, and then I would have an Amen that's already cut and ready to rumble for the whole song, right? So fading that. Next thing we can do is we can add a bit of EQ. So if you look here, I've put 100 Hertz up a little bit on there. It's probably best to subtract EQ more than take away, but I'm going to do a video about that for forthcoming. I'm not a mix engineer, but you know, I get around it and I get what I want out of it. You know, so I can't really comment 100% and give you exact, you know, gospel on how to do this sort of stuff. But yeah, what I tend to do, what I do with this break is put the 100 up. I've got the 500 here that I've boosted a little bit, and I've also boosted a bit of 10K here to give it a bit of sparkle. And let's listen to the before and after of that. So that's before, and this is after. Very, very subtle. We can put a little bit more. Now, bearing in mind this has been cut from an MP3, just to give you an example on compression. You could also use a bit of reverb. You know, you don't want to put too much reverb because it muddies up your track, but what you want to do is just play a little second of it and then stop. Just enough to hear that tail off. And again, that's just box standard. You can pick a preset, you can mess about with that. And that's pretty much that part of it. Now, for stuff like filters and stuff, you know, people use filters. Again, what you could do is you could call up Camel Phat, which I've got here. And then that's pretty cool. I love that kind of effect there. Grab that and again, render to sample. And now I've got a sample that's got filter on it. So in theory, if I wanted to go, if I want to take that back off here, I could just literally add that in on another track here. Obviously, you want to put it on a separate track because you want to, you know, have control over what's going on, and also good for your mix as well. So let's delete that there, get rid of that, bring that down, and then run it. Okay, this lag's kind of got me freaked out here, but look, let's chuck this up here. I'm pretty sure that's where we needed to put it. And then obviously put press the caps key and put an off here. This is like an off command. It stops it from bleeding over. And there you have it. That's what you do with your breaks generally. There's lots of other stuff you can do like automation, but we're not going to get into that now. I hope you have found this video useful. 100 samples if you join my main list down in the bottom. Also giving away an M Audio sound card. Probably give that away just after Christmas. All you have to do is follow me on Instagram and answer the following 2 questions. How long have you been making music for? And what type of music do you make? It's really as simple as that. And you can win yourself an M Audio 2x2 interface. This is a really great interface. I've done a review on it recently and I do recommend it. It's like an audiophile 2496 replacement for those of you who know. Big shout to everyone who's given me a shout. Don't forget to keep sending me those tunes. I will be sending you back feedback. busybscience@gmail.com. Take care. God bless. Peace.